Welcome back to my cake kitchen. If I look very oily, forgive me. That is because I've been here earlier, just a few moments ago, baking a cake by Claire Saffitz. Now, there is some buttercream that is supposed to go with it. And the buttercream takes a process where we have to allow the chocolate custard base to set. And I actually intended to come back tomorrow. But on consideration, I thought Claire didn't tell us in her video. It's an original recipe that I have taken just to try so that we can see how good it is. The cake itself is here. It's amazing. It has some chilled. We'll come to the cake in a moment, but let's settle with this. So the intention initially was to leave this to set overnight, but then by so doing, it's like I'm taking a different form of it, and that's not what was recommended. And since this is by a very reputable, known recipe developer, I want to be able to do the recipe justice. So this is just on a whim because the custard base is cold. So we're just going to derive the chocolate buttercream. I'll give you my thoughts on the chocolate cake we sorted. It's amazing, but testing a cake when it's warm, it's going to be different from when it is set. We'll obviously know the best out of it 24 hours after it's completely settled and cold at room temperature. But so far the texture is yielding amazing and it's great, but we're not over there talking about the cake just yet. Let's talk about the buttercream. So if you want to know the basics of this buttercream, you want to check on the previous video where we created a custard base. Essentially, it's a German style chocolate buttercream, and the German chocolate buttercream is made from a custard base, and one of the main ingredients of the custard base is your cornstarch, right, for the custard and egg yolks, except Claire swapped the cornstarch for flour. So essentially she's gone into the ermine buttercream without employing the full ermine buttercream, which is flour buttercream. It's also called the roux frosting. It's a kind of slightly different buttercream that has similarities to a German buttercream, but I won't labor the point. You can check those out. I'm already developing a script about the type of recipes here. My point is she's taken something and substituted one ingredient but maintaining the main technique in the original thing, which is German buttercream. And why she did that, she explains in her video, and it's to maintain the consistency of the emulsion of the buttercream, because if she uses cornstarch, essentially when she chills the buttercream, eventually it will break, which means that the liquid will leak out and separate from the fats and stuff like that. So she is a very good recipe developer, and good doesn't begin to describe her, and I've already fangirled about her a lot, so I don't want to do that over. I don't want to overlabor, but I'm like, she is really a professional in her field. So for her to put up a recipe like that, I suppose, like she confirmed, she's tested it in various like variations of it, and has said that one of the reasons why she derived this buttercream using the flour was simply because she wanted to make it easy to freeze as well without affecting consistency and outcomes. And that is what this does. So essentially, we've created a custard base from the previous video, which is already up. So what I'm going to do is whip this up and then cream it into the butter here. And then we have ourselves buttercream. So if it's your first time we're meeting, good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening, good night, because I'm in the UK. I'm talking to you from my UK-based home kitchen, but I know lots of you watch me from different parts of the world. So wherever you are, I hope you're having a good day. But I've already stood here. It's it's 9 p.m. Let's get this buttercream done, get it out of the way, and then we'll be back in the morning with all the stuff we have here to kind of put the cake together, get it tasted, and then we'll see exactly the results of it. But so far the cake is baked well, and we're just trying to finish the buttercream. Dolly, hello there, welcome back. I didn't think I was going to come back, but hey, here we are. If you love cake, that is what happens, okay? But like I said, if I look super oily over here, forgive me, because I didn't want to go and retouch my makeup, and it's like, oh, this is what we look like when we're in the kitchen on a busy day. So that is just by the way, right? That said, I'm using my bigger mixer here. George, do I make cookies? If you look at the previous videos I have made, I tried cookies. It's not my ministry, but I guess as a baker, there's a thing or two about cookies I can try. But it's not my ministry, my lovely. Okay, that said, we are just going to have the custard base in here. I call it custard base, but it's a kind of flour custard mix, if you like, with chocolate. And the flavor of the chocolate, I've got to tell you, amazing. I'll tell you, because sometimes this utilizes cocoa powder and chopped chocolate pieces, and sometimes you can get the chocolate being too intense, and I personally don't like overpoweringly sweet intense chocolate, and this isn't that at all. The way she's developed the recipe, it has balance to it. It's amazing. It's good. Lollipop land, you people are out here just making me feel good about myself. Thank you so very much. Like I was saying, I wasn't thinking of coming back, but it's great to be back with you guys. So we're going to cream this before we add the butter and then vanilla to it. So if you're just joining us, let's just cream this, but just so I can let you know, sometimes when, depending on the speed that we're using, the mixer can get a little bit loud, unfortunately. So if it gets really loud and you're asking me questions and I can't answer, let's just finish the task at hand and then I'll talk to you, okay? So bear with me. Remember, if you are just joining us here, for those of you who were here earlier, remember, as soon as we made the custard base, I made a point of saying you could actually fill that into your cake. And I meant that. Look at the consistency of that. You can fill that into a cake, but of course you have to create a border with that. It is really, you know what? Okay, let's get this out of the way and let it go a little bit, and then we'll add the butter. We are just adding the butter by chunks here. And I guess the quality of butter and consistency matters too, okay? Oh, wow. I am looking at the consistency here. It hasn't mixed completely, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But look at the buttercream here. The butter hasn't completely broken yet, so. If you like a nice chocolate cake, and I'm talking a chocolate cake with all the notes of chocolate, that is intense enough, but it's not like sickly sweet for you to kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but eating chocolate is sort of on a spectrum, even if I say so myself. Like, there are people who just like sugar. Like, I made the cookie dough croissant thing, and I just found it too sweet. there is like sweet cookie dough with chunks of chocolate in it. It's stuffed into this pastry. I just couldn't. I'm not that such a sugary person. And then you'll find somebody stuffing their face into that. I know somebody who does that very well. I'll leave them. Anyway, that said, we all have, I guess, our preferences for specific taste varies. And chocolate, for me, a good chocolate cake almost should be balanced out by a nice coffee. I don't drink coffee except maybe a Starbucks seasonal coffee or hot chocolate. So let's say there's pumpkin spice. If I had a pumpkin spice latte with a nice good chocolate cake, I guess it will marry, okay? But chocolate cake itself has to just be somewhere in the middle and not intense. All of that, I say to say, what we have here is overwhelming in terms of the ingredients, but it's milder in taste, but still intense. You can feel the notes of the chocolate. It's a chocolate cake. It's intense. It gives you a kick in your cheek, but it's good. You're gonna have to try it. That's all. Let's finish the buttercream. Right, Lollipop found me the word. She said she will call it rich. But I suppose rich is still honest, because sometimes rich is like, where do you start and where do you stop with rich? Get what I'm saying? So the buttercream is definitely rich, but it's not the sort of thing where someone is like, too much. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to explain. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape the bottom of the bowl and all the sort of uncreamed butter on the sides, and then add it all together and let it cream. And I think that will be it, essentially. You know, this is actually really good. I am so excited because I have a cake coming up for a customer that I think I love. So I'm going to be making them this chocolate cake with this buttercream. They say they love a chocolate cake, so I'm sure they will appreciate this one. She is lovely, that customer. She is so lovely. So there you go. Oh, Coops Woodworks, you're back. Hello, darling. How are you? You know what? Oh, this is a dream chocolate buttercream to have. I know I'm banging on about it. That's not because I'm a fangirl of Claire Saffitz. I love Claire Saffitz because she teaches well. She's a great teacher. I love her, right? But that's not the reason why I am kind of raving on about this. I tell you how I derive my chocolate buttercream, and you will see what I'm saying. When I make chocolate buttercream, and I've actually made that on this channel. If you go onto videos, not the live and or shorts, like full long form video, I've made my chocolate buttercream. You will see the entire process I take. I create the buttercream, then I let the buttercream set and develop its flavor. Then I come back and the next day, and then I melt the chocolate bars to mix into the buttercream. And it's a sort of versatile, adaptable kind of buttercream that the style can be made with any type of buttercream as a base. But normally I have chosen French buttercream or American buttercream for good reason. My sort of American chocolate buttercream employs this, especially when I'm dealing with customers who want the sweetness. It employs the sweetness of the American buttercream, except I use a 1-to-1 ratio instead of the 2-to-1 ratio. And the 1-to-1 ratio is equal parts of sugar, icing sugar to butter. So I use that, and then I let the buttercream set. And then the next day I come back and I employ melted chocolate. And the melted chocolate takes the form of ganache, but the ganache is formed by mixing parts of the same buttercream that is frozen with the chocolate to derive the ganache. The ganache is then left to cool and then mixed back into the base buttercream. I do that because I really personally do not like buttercream that is derived from using cocoa powder. There's a sort of dusty, there's an aftertaste to it that I don't like very much. Perhaps because of the word I can't pronounce, the alkalized form of the powdered chocolate, cocoa powder. It kind of leaves an aftertaste that doesn't make the buttercream really like smooth for me. So I use the melted cocoa to kind of achieve an intensity and smoothness to the chocolate buttercream. But when I've done that using American buttercream, the intention is to use the intensity of chocolate to cancel out the sweetness of American buttercream so that there's a balanced mouthfeel to it. And that's my technique. When I have used French buttercream as a base, I am employing the richness of French buttercream, which is also sort of an egg yolk based buttercream. So when I created my buttercream, it was a long process, and I have actually created that video here. You should check it out. This kind of almost like it makes my job easier. I don't have to derive an entire buttercream to kind of create this buttercream. So this kind of serves the purpose that I have long been trying to achieve by employing a long process, if that makes sense. So this is a buttercream that I will highly recommend. And if you're a beginner who is just starting your cake journey and you want a chocolate buttercream, I will go for this. Now, this is what I will say though before we get here. Buttercreams are used for different purposes. They are derived for different things. Buttercreams are used for filling into cake, covering into cake, piping onto cakes, holding shape, molding over cupcakes, and all sorts. But for a specific type of buttercream, you want to ask yourself, what is your objective for the buttercream? Now, because there is flour here, ermine buttercream is known for its stability. To a very good extent, doesn't compare to Italian buttercream. However, when covering over cakes, it is unlikely to yield you a very fine, smooth finish to your cake as, say, American buttercream would, or even better, Swiss or Italian buttercream. So when we're talking finishes, this chocolate cake buttercream perhaps, and this is just an opinion, this buttercream, I suspect, will be great for an intensely chocolate rustic cake. If you're making a rustic chocolate cake with texture using a palette knife technique, amazing. If it's not going to be anywhere under the hot, summery sun, perfect. Okay? But if you need a polished looking buttercream type to kind of finish your cake in a very polished, well presented, clean looking way, I doubt this might be your buttercream. But that is set in just opinion, because rightly so, I think the intention and purpose for Claire deriving the cake was for absolute novices and complete beginners who will find this buttercream and cake reliable enough that they are not fussed about decorating the cake to look grand, but getting the cake to look great and good tasting enough to the extent that buttercream will match it, and it's just decorated in just rustic form with either palette knife technique, or just fill the cake up and just throw on some fresh fruits over it. Okay, so that is something to think about whilst we're at it. I'm going to look in the chat and see what we're looking here. Thomas likes to bake. Coop's workshop. I'm so sorry. I think I've been just kind of like blabbing away, and all I have I want to try it your way. All I have ever known is cocoa powder. Look, there is things. You know what we're doing here, we started it on earlier there's a live just up already before this one, and that live you'll see we're making the only chocolate cake you will ever need, and it's by Claire Saffitz. If you check that video, you should see how we started making this custard base. The cocoa powder is not a bad thing. It's just preference for me. I've seen people make the cocoa powder by trying to bloom the cocoa powder into American buttercream using cream, double cream. And all of that is good and nice. But if you've been on this channel enough, right, much of the information I pass about my processes and intention is set in informing you about what I do and why I do it, so that you can align that with your own objectives, right? Because I find, and that's the reason why I love Claire Saffitz, Erin G. McDowell, and the various people I have just named as people I really love watching on the platform. The reason being, they don't just give you the content of baking. They make it a session to teach you. And watching a content creator talk you through what they are thinking about something takes away doubt and brings you clarity. Because with this day and age, I guess I will be right to say, I'm sure you can source recipes from anywhere. But Dolly in the chat will tell you, I think one of these days we were on a live where she said she sourced a cupcake recipe and the recipe didn't turn out great. Yet this is a well-developed recipe by a recipe creator who has put this online. Now, I don't think the recipe is a bad recipe, and I'm addressing what's the name, Dolly here. I don't think any recipe is bad. What you're probably missing is some information about the recipe. Okay, so it's for me, I think it's always important to bring context to the processes so that there is real understanding of it. Which is why sometimes when I don't do gimmicky videos, and when I've tried it, like the cookie dough croissant, it's like, it's not what I do. It's like, what is this? Okay, it's not even something I like. Okay, so that said, Coops, check it, try it. Not just mine. I think I will highly recommend you to go watch Claire Saffitz's video on this particular recipe. It's a masterclass on baking, buttercream, and putting a cake together. She does it so well, and I think the producers of her videos actually they bring her intention out in a way where the video is very fast paced. I mean, you're watching a video that is over 20 minutes, but it's, if you think about the baking process from cake to buttercream, you're looking at nearly a 4-hour video if shot in real time. But the producers of her videos are just like masters in what they do, so much that they are able to bring her and what she's teaching in its bite-sized form without compromising the teaching skill and ability that she is able to inform you about. So I highly recommend the video for you to watch. But otherwise, I'm just going to add some vanilla here. We're going to mix that, and then that's the buttercream done. And perhaps I will mix it a bit more whilst it's slowing down. And then we will come back tomorrow and put it together. Yeah. And the good thing is when you leave buttercream to set overnight, you allow the flavors to develop better anyway. So and you know what, considering the recipe itself, obviously the cake has chilled. If I wanted to put the recipe together, as in put the cake together today, it is highly possible. So it kind of goes to show how simplistic the process and the cake is by itself. So yeah, that's the chocolate buttercream here. Okay, right, what I'm going to do is try and scrape the bottom, and it does hold its shape. It does hold. It is super firm. This right. I'll tell you this. You know you've got a good chocolate buttercream when you can literally dig a spoon into it and eat it as though you're eating a chocolate ice cream. And that's what this feels like. It literally, it fills your mouth. You know, it's a good chocolate buttercream, that's all. And if you're worried about sugar, it only, can you imagine, this only contains about 100 grams of granulated sugar. That's all. Just 100 grams of granulated sugar that was used as part of the custard. So it's not sugary, but you're not missing the sugar as well. It's just, I say this to say, whilst I love cake, I am very particular. And I mean that when I say, I probably say that from a place of privilege because I'm a baker. So I get to make the cake I want, how I want it. But this is a good buttercream and cake to have, and I definitely recommend that. So yeah, if you're a beginner and you start looking for a chocolate, if I ever found anything that outmatched this, and I'm talking about this knowing that I make my own French buttercream, chocolate buttercream, and I love it, but the sugar amount in French buttercream brings you to a very rich, overwhelming, sweet buttercream. And this isn't that at all. I mean, my French buttercream is equal parts of the egg yolk or egg, whole eggs to sugar. And normally for the quantity I make, there's about 350 grams of granulated sugar to 350 grams of egg or egg yolks before we create the ganache and then all that stuff. So not only is the process long-winded and tedious, it is rich and nice, and there's a place for that. I'm just saying this fills in the gaps of if you want a lesser job done and yet great flavor, good mouthfeel, and not too sweet, and it's smooth also. That's all.